Hi, I'm John with Benton Model Fitness. Today, we're going to show you the top 5 exercises, in my opinion, that I would advise you to not do if your whole goal is to shrink your legs down and get your hip measurements down. So these are 5 exercises that you probably shouldn't do if you're worried about your hip measurements or if you're just worried about not bulking up your legs. So the first one is just the basic squat. So girls can build leg muscle pretty quick. A lot of people, even a lot of trainers sometimes will be like, oh, don't worry, you're a girl, you're not gonna bulk up your legs. And then a month or 2 into a workout program that has a lot of leg exercises, you could be like, my hip measurements went up 2 inches, or I can't fit in my favorite jeans. So that's the first one that I would really advise to not do. All right, now that we've got the squats out of the way, the next exercise that I would really advise you to not do if you're trying to shrink your hip measurements down and not bulk up would be lunges. So lunges are great exercises. Like I said earlier, squats are great, but lunges, they're gonna use a ton of your middle thigh and your hip flexors and your booty. And if you're a model or trying to get into modeling, you have your hip measurements taken around the front of your hip flexor all the way around to like the apex of your booty. And if you're doing the wrong types of workouts, those can really build up muscle in your legs and your hip flexors. And that can really throw your hip measurements off, and we don't want that. All right, so the third exercise that you probably should not do if you're trying to shrink your hip measurements down are burpees. Nobody likes to do burpees, so they can really bulk up muscle in your legs, and they're just terrible. Nobody likes to do them anyways. So it's like a win-win to not do burpees. They're a great exercise, amazing cardio, amazing, basically full body workout. But like I said, if you're trying to not bulk up muscle in your legs, I would highly advise to not do burpees. Okay, the fourth exercise that I would really highly recommend to not do if you're trying to shrink down your hip measurements or trying to not bulk up your legs would definitely be deadlifts. So deadlifts are amazing exercise. They're really good at toning up your legs, your hamstrings, your booty. But if you do too much deadlifts, especially if you're doing heavy weight deadlifts, they could build up your hamstrings and your booty muscles. We don't want that. The fifth exercise that I would highly recommend not doing if you're trying to shrink down your hip measurements and not bulk up would be sprints. So sprinting, obviously, you're gonna burn more calories and fat if you do sprints or really fast runs, but the faster that you run or sprint, the bigger stride you take. The bigger stride you take, the more muscle you're potentially going to bulk up in your hip flexors and your upper thighs, and that could really bulk up your legs. That's why we don't wanna do sprints. All right, hope you guys liked the video. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight on how to not bulk up your legs. So if you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. We're gonna have some more details down below, and we're gonna have some more content for you guys coming up very soon. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate it.